y'all, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. So I picked up the new Tom Ford Cream Eye Quad, but I also picked up one of the new Victoria Beckham eye wardrobes. Both of these are in olive color story, so I thought it'd be fun to compare the two palettes. So we're gonna do some side-by-side swatches, create a look with each one of these, and just really compare the color story, the formula, and the wear time. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you my thoughts on each one of these and let you know which one I think is worth your hard-earned money. Of course, that is if you are interested in either one of these palettes. I will have both of them linked and listed down below in the description box, as well as everything else that I use in my video today to complete my looks. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But without further ado, let's get this party started. All right, y'all, so before we jump into our swatches and creating our two looks, I want to do a quick overview of these two palettes. So up first, we had the Victoria Beckham eye wardrobe. Now these are going to retail for $75, and these are refillable, but not refillable in the sense that you can purchase the individual shades. You have to purchase all four because they come in one solid tray, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute, but the refill does retail for $50. So when you first purchase this, if you purchase it as the little combo, it's going to come in two separate packages. So you're going to get your compact, which is very hefty, very weighty, luxurious feeling in the hand, just like everything else from the brand. You're going to get a mirror, and it's going to have a nice snap closure, and then you're also going to get your tray of 4 eyeshadows. Now notice one shade does have more product in it than the other three. I'm assuming that's probably because she figures that's the shade that you're going to go through the fastest, but personally I would have liked a more even distribution, and if everything was kind of the same size. I also want to note that while she did reformulate her eyeshadows, she also set them up a little bit differently as well. Before, it was all 4 shades kind of pressed into one pan, and that's actually the reason I have never tried her eyeshadows before, because I'm just not a fan of that, and no matter how good the formula is, that would have driven me nuts. So these do have the little separators in between, but they're still going to be in one palette, but it just pops into the little compact right here, and you're good to go. Now moving on to Tom Ford, it comes in his same classic packaging that it always does, with the brown and the gold, the TF on the front, and when you open it up, you are going to have your 4 shades. You're going to have your applicators down here. These are not refillable. They never are. They're not magnetic, anything like that. So you get what you get with these palettes. Now I do want to note that the Victoria Beckham has a 24-month shelf life, and Tom Ford has a 12-month shelf life. You're also going to get 0.24 ounces of product in the Victoria Beckham, and you're only going to get 0.18 ounces of product in the Tom Ford. So as far as value goes, you're definitely going to get more value from the Victoria Beckham than you are from the Tom Ford, but we'll see what happens when it comes down to formula. But we're going to go ahead and flip to an overhead view, and we're going to do our side-by-side swatches. So here's a good close-up of these two palettes side by side, and you can tell just by looking at them that Tom Ford definitely has more of a neutral leaning color story with a pop of olive in it, whereas Victoria Beckham has more of an olive color story with a pop of neutrality. But we're going to swatch these out side by side so we can really compare the shades to one another, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the Tom Ford Quad. So I'm going to start with this shade up here, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that up on my hand. This is his creme formula, so it's going to be more of a cream to powder formula, and that's going to be our very first shade. Absolutely beautiful, smooth, has a really nice gold base to it. I love that color. Next, we're going to go into this one right here, and this one has a little bit more of like a bronziness to it, a little bit of a green base to it, but it's still very neutral as far as these shades go. Absolutely beautiful though. But let's pop into this olive shade down here. So I'm going to pick that one up on my finger as well. This one doesn't feel quite as creamy as those first ones do. It does feel very silky, and it has a beautiful color payoff. I really like that color. I think it's absolutely beautiful. But let's pop into the one and only matte in this palette, and it's this really dark shade that looks like it's going to be a black, and it absolutely is. This is a black shade. So we're going to go ahead and swatch that one right there, and that is going to be our Tom Ford color story. All right, so our first shade from the Victoria Beckham palette is going to be this neutral matte shade right here. This is a classic powder formula, so it's not going to be a cream to matte or a cream to powder formula or anything like that, but that is our first shade. Very neutral, beautiful transition shade. Let's pop into this green satin looking shade right here. So very pretty olive undertone, and I'm going to swatch this one out right here. So that is that shade. Now these aren't swatching out quite as opaque as the one from Tom Ford, but swatches only tell part of the story. It's all about the performance on the eye. They go on different with brushes than they do with fingers. But let's move on to our next matte shade in this palette. I do like that we have more mattes in this palette than we do the Tom Ford, but I also don't ever expect a lot of matte shades from Tom Ford. It's just kind of how he lays out his palette. But that is our green matte shade right there. So again, it's swatching a little translucent, but it is buildable. I'm gonna see if I can build it up just a little bit more. These are very smooth, very silky to the touch. Like I said, they are a powder formula, but they are very soft in the pan. But we have one more shade to swatch out. So let me clean off my finger real quick. I'm gonna have to go in with a different finger because that's stained a little bit. So we're gonna go in to this shade right here. It's a really pretty kind of green gold leaning shade, and we're gonna put that one right there. That is very smooth. It does have a creaminess to it. It has a nice kind of green undertone to it, but it's not super in your face. Very reflective, very on point as far as like the one from Tom Ford goes. Two very different color stories, but they're both absolutely beautiful, and I'm excited to try these on my lids. All right, y'all, so we are zoomed in, my eyes are primed and ready to go with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly, and we're gonna go ahead and get started with the Victoria Beckham quad. So I'm gonna do this one on my right eye, and then I'm gonna do the Tom Ford on my left eye. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this shade right here, and I'm gonna put that in my crease. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up with a Rephr 16 brush, and I am just very lightly going to buff and disperse this into my crease. I am going in very light-handed, just because I don't know what the pigmentation is like. I don't know if there's gonna be a lot of fallout, anything like that. There's not hardly any kick up in the pan with this palette. I do want to note that. Kick up doesn't bother me, but I know it does bother somebody, but as long as it doesn't transfer to the lid, it's not a big deal to me. But I'm just going to keep buffing this in and building it up. This is going on really nicely. It's building up, it's blending out nicely. I'm not getting any patching, skipping, fallout. It's not doing anything funky. I'm gonna take this down onto my lower lash line as well. So basically I'm just buffing this around my entire eye, avoiding my inner corner. So I'm just gonna keep buffing it down here, meeting it up in my outer corner and making sure that it's nice and blended and blown out. So next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into this olive satin shade right here, and I'm gonna pick this up with sort of a flat brush. This is one from Ladybug Glow. It is a natural bristle brush, and I am just going to basically press this all over my lid. I do my looks with my quads a little bit different because we're only dealing with 4 shades and you just kind of have to line them up a little bit different. So I'm just going to kind of work this all over my lid, blending it into my crease and just dispersing it out here on my outer corner. I am going to leave my inner corner open. I want to make that nice and light and bright, but then I'm going to go back and just kind of blend it up onto my brow bone, blending it into that first shade that I put down, and I'm going to bring a little bit of this down onto my lower lash line as well. I'm not going to bring it all the way over, but I'm going to bring it about halfway over, just meeting it up in my outer corner. So next I'm going to go into this gold shimmer shade right here, and I'm going to put it on my inner corner and kind of overlap it over that olive shade that I just put down. So I'm going to use my finger to do this. So I'm going to pick up a little bit and we're just going to kind of press it right here in the inner corner, kind of blending it over my lid. I'm not going to bring it all the way over. I want to give like a soft ombre effect. Yeah, that is absolutely beautiful. I really like the way these are going on and then the way they're performing. They're pigmented, but they're not so pigmented where they're going to get away from you really quick. I'm not getting any patching, skipping, fallout. I'm not even getting any fallout with this shimmer shade. It's going on very smoothly. It's very soft in the pan. It's not giving me any issues as far as emphasizing texture or anything like that. Lastly, I want to go into this matte green shade right here and use it to line my lid. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with this BK Beauty 208 brush. It's just this teeny tiny little precision angled brush, and I'm just going to line my lid with it. So I cannot talk while I do this, so you're just going to have to bear with me for a minute, but I'm going to pick up a little bit of product and I'm going to go right along my lash line, and I am going to wing this out just a little bit, but I want to see if this is going to perform as a liner or if it's just going to kind of sheer out, if it's going to grab, or if it's going to do anything funky. It is lining my lid really nicely. I really like the shade in here. You could 100% use this as like an outer corner shade, deepen everything up a little bit, or you could do what I'm doing, and I just want to go in and line my lid. All right, y'all, so this is the completed look and I think it turned out beautiful. I'm really impressed with the performance of this palette. I didn't have any issues blending things out, building them up. The pigmentation was there, but it wasn't overwhelming to where I felt like it got away from me and I had to reel it back in. Everything is sitting nicely on the lid. It's nice and smooth. It's not emphasizing texture, and I really like the shade selection in this palette. But let's move on to the Tom Ford palette and create our look with this one. So for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and start with, I think, this shade right here, the bronzy shade out of the 3 shimmers in here. We only have one matte, so this is going to be a shimmer heavy look, but I kind of expect that with Tom Ford palettes. That's usually how they're laid out. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this shade right here, and I am going to pick that up with a Rephr 01 brush, and I'm going to put this all over my lid. So this is going to be my main shade that I'm going to put down, and this is the cream formula, so you can kind of blend it out a little bit easier, and it really stays in place. I enjoy the cream formula. Honestly, I personally like his cream formula more than I like the wet to dry formula. I know that's a favorite with a lot of people, but I just find these easier to work with, and look at that. Very easy to blend out, very easy to distribute. It looks beautiful on the lid. No issues as far as patching, skipping, fallout, anything like that goes. It's not emphasizing texture. That is a really pretty subtle olive shade. So I'm just picking up a little bit more of that shade and kind of wiggling my brush back and forth, like right in the socket of my eye. And then I'm going to flip it to its side and kind of buff right along the edges, kind of blending it up towards my brow bone, kind of giving me the same effect that I have on the first eye, except it's with one shade. And I'm just going to keep doing it until I have the blend that I want and I have it brought up to where I want it. Yeah, I think that looks absolutely beautiful. And then I'm also going to bring this down onto my lower lash line as well. So pick up a little bit more once again, and I'm just going to softly buff it right down here. Next, I'm going to go into the olive shimmer shade right here, and I'm going to put that on my outer corner. So I'm going to pick that up with a Rephr 02 brush, and I'm just going to start to press it right here on my outer corner, and then I'll start to build up the shape that I want and give me a little bit more depth. So I'm going to kind of apply this the way that I would normally apply my eyeshadows, just a little something deeper in my outer corner, blending it over on my lid, buffing it up onto my brow bone, and just making sure that everything is nice and blended, and that is going on like a dream, exactly how I expect it to perform from a Tom Ford quad. I'm also going to go back and bring that shade down onto my lower lash line as well, just keeping it on the outer portion, lining it up with what I have going on my lid, just keeping all that darkness and depth on my very outer corner. So before I move on, I want to go back with the first brush that I used. No extra product. You could also go with a clean brush as well, but I want to go right along the edge of that olive shade that I just put down and just lightly kind of buff it out, softening it just a little bit so it kind of blends a little bit better. You don't have to do this, but I like to have a nice seamless blend with my eye look, and that made all the difference in the world. So now we're going to go in with the lighter of the 3 shimmers in this palette, which is this one right here. And I'm going to do the same thing with that shade that I did with the lightest one in the Victoria Beckham palette. I'm just going to tap it kind of in my inner corner and blend it over onto my lid, just giving a nice seamless flow and wrapping it around into my inner corner. So I'm going to pick that shade up with my finger, and I'm just going to tap it right in here and blend it onto my lid. And then I'm going to go back with my pinky and press it right here in my inner corner. And to finish off this look, we're going to go into this deep matte shade down here, and we're going to line my lid just like I did with the Victoria Beckham quad and wing it out a little bit. So I'm going to go in with the same brush that I used. I just cleaned it right before I started all this, so it'd be good and dry and ready to go. And we are going to line my lid. Now, that is one thing that I do love about the Tom Ford Creme formula, is I find these to be really easy to line the lid with. They just glide on, and they do dry down, at least for me. They don't budge. I have very watery eyes, and they're also very oily as well, and I have never had an issue as far as wear time goes with the Tom Ford. Victoria Beckham, I can't tell you. We're going to find out as the day goes on, because I am going to come back this evening after so many hours. I'm hoping I can get a good at least 10, 11, 12 hours out of these, but we're going to see what these are looking like. But I'm just going to keep lining my eye, winging it out a little bit, and then I'm going to throw in some liner and mascara, and I will come back and show you the completed look. All right, y'all, so this is the completed look with the Tom Ford quad, and this is giving me more of that soft classic elegance, but still absolutely beautiful. And as far as performance goes, I didn't have any issues with this quad either. It performed the way that I expected it to. The shades were very easy to apply, blend out, blend together, very seamless, effortless on the lid, no patching, skipping, fallout, anything like that. The shimmers look very beautiful. They're not accentuating texture. It just laid down really nicely, which is exactly what I expect from a Tom Ford quad. Now to finish up both of these looks, I did go in with the same liner and the mascara. So in my lower waterline, I went with the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liner in the shade Olive. And then for mascara, I went in with my Armani Eyes to Kill mascara. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn the lights down real quick so we can see what these kind of look like under low lighting, see if there's a lot of shimmer, sparkle, reflect, or anything like that. And then I'm gonna give you my first initial impression thoughts before I go throughout my day and see how these two palettes wear on my lids. So basically what it comes down to, y'all, is color story preference. I think the formula is beautiful in both of these palettes. I don't think you would be disappointed either way. I love the two looks that I created, but if you're planning on picking up either of these palettes with the intention of creating a green look, Victoria Beckham is the way that you're gonna wanna go. Don't get me wrong, I love the Tom Ford palette. The look I created is beautiful and the formula in here is incredible. It's just not giving me the green color story that I was hoping for, like the Victoria Beckham palette did. And if I'm gonna reach for a palette to create a green look, this is the one that I'm going to go for. I think there's a lot of variety in here as far as a quad goes. You can get something very neutral by popping this in the crease, this all over the lid. You can amp it up with the two green shades in here. You can really do something subtle, something a little poppy, something a little in your face. There is a lot of variety in this palette as far as a quad goes. And with that being said, the Tom Ford quad is actually full of some beautiful one and dones in this palette. You could easily throw either of these three shades on your lid, line it with this, and be out the door. So there's definitely pros and cons to both of these, but like I said, if you want a green palette, Victoria Beckham is the way to go. All right, y'all, so I am back. It is the end of the day. I am so ready to take this makeup off and crawl into bed because it is very late at night. It's almost 11 o'clock, which means I've had this full face of makeup on for well over 12 hours. In fact, I think we're approaching that 13-hour mark, and that's an insane amount of time to have your makeup on, but I had to show you what my eyes were looking like before I took it off. So starting with Miss Victoria Beckham, she looks absolutely beautiful, just like I did when I applied it. Everything is staying in place, nothing transferred, nothing faded. We don't have any creasing going on. It looks absolutely beautiful. I can't say the same for the Tom Ford eye, unfortunately, and I'm really disappointed because I've never had any issues with the Tom Ford quad. I don't know what it is, but you can see it's fading a little bit. It didn't transfer or anything like that, but it just doesn't look as good when I first applied it, and it definitely creased right here on my eye. You can see a little bit of that shade disruption and separation. I did go in and pat it out with my finger so it's not as bad as it was, but I wanted to see how easy it was to fix it, and like 10 minutes later, it separated on me again. So that makes Miss Victoria Beckham our ultimate winner today because she held on for dear life. She ran the race like none other, and she held on for a solid 13 hours. So that just goes to show that not all palettes and formulas are created equal, and overall, I am really impressed with the Victoria Beckham palettes. I think her color stories are beautiful. Her formula is wonderful. It's got the longevity there. Yes, it's pricey, but it's a luxury brand, and as far as luxury quads go, it's actually on the more affordable side, and I think you're going to get more bang for your buck with that one. So it really makes me interested to pick up more, and we'll see what happens down the road. And with all of that being said, that is going to complete today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed it and you found this helpful. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you have your eye on either of these, if you picked either of them up, which one was your favorite. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.